What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here. So it's kind of interesting because I just did the video and I said basically if I felt like there wasn't really anything new for me to talk about, I wasn't really sure if I wanted to do any more Chelsea reviews. And then today we actually do get something that I haven't really gotten much of a chance to talk about before because, well, frankly, it just doesn't happen very often. What Potter does whenever we're ahead. And that's something that is kind of interesting to discuss. So we'll talk about that. Because frankly, looking at this win, fine. It's a win we should be getting. Because yeah, I think we're 6-1 now. Southampton being the one that we lost to, beating teams in the bottom half of the table at home. So that's one that we've been consistently doing, except for one game where we just, for whatever reason, could not find the net. Whether it's lack of finishing, whether it's Potter's dumb tactics, whether it's all of the above. So yeah, I mean, this is a win kind of expected to get, but it's not a comprehensive win. It's narrow 1-0 win, which I looked at some of Leeds' past results. Everton did that. Nottingham Forest did that. Villa beat them 2-1. So it's like, yeah, cool. We're doing what most of the other teams in the bottom half of the table are doing, beating Leeds 1-0. And honestly, not even that great of a performance overall. I mean, first half we had the typical high energy, a lot of knocking the ball around, but not really creating anything from it, and then slowly dropping off as the other teams start coming into the game, and suddenly there are chances for them, and now it's looking a little shaky. And that's kind of the typical Chelsea performance. It's just today we had one set piece that we scored on, and Leeds missed their chances that they created. So on another day, Leeds bury all 3 or 4 of their great chances. We missed that corner because Melier makes a great save on it because he really kind of... It was a little bit on him, I feel like, because he didn't really reset himself after he started to come out. I would have been pissed if Kepa let in a goal like that. So, yeah, I feel like he should have done a bit better. But, like I said, on a different day, he might have done better. He might have made sure not to come out, and then he would have been better set to make the save, knock it over. And again, Leeds had some great chances that one guy just wasn't quite turned on for it, and he didn't get a poke on it. On another day, he might. There was a shot top of the box where terrible clearance from Zakaria, I think, and shot comes in and it goes through Gallagher's legs, it goes through his legs. On another day, that might flick off one of their feet, and Kepa's already going down to make that save. It could deflect to the other side of the goal. So it's a very up in the air game. We didn't really comprehensively win the game. We just sort of narrowly eked it out. And in my opinion, that is not going to change anything. Because we did the same thing against Palace. We dominated the game, but we narrowly won 1-0. And Palace had a few chances to put the game away when they came to our place. So what did that change? What did the Palace result do? Nothing. We went on and we didn't win until today. So seeing this win, it doesn't give me hope that, oh, guys, we're going to bounce back against Dortmund. No, we're probably going to go in and we're probably going to get beat again. Because this is not a good team that we're facing, and they still had chances to take points away from us today. Because we didn't do what we needed to do. And a lot of that comes down to Potter. First of all, what the team looked like after the goal was just embarrassing. I'm glad there were some boos throughout the rest of the match, because I was worried people were going to be like, okay, guys, we're scored, we are ahead, we're good now, we can cheer, we can be excited. I'm glad some people were like, why are we not attacking? There was one in particular that got the biggest boo from what I heard, and it was just, we win the ball back, pass it down the field. And this was right after we countered, by the way, so it wasn't like we didn't know how to counter. It's just, for some reason, I'm guessing probably words from the manager of like, hey, we need to calm down a little bit, because ball goes up to somebody who takes a touch, turns it back, and people were like, what the hell? We had numbers in the attack. We equaled them in numbers of the attack, so what are we doing? Why do we not want to go score another one? Why do we want to rest on a 1-0 lead when we are terrible about seeing out 1-0 leads? We've seen it so many times this season. So what are we doing? What was the thought process there? And then on top of that, you look at his subs, they're all negative. They were all negative subs. Your first two, you take off Sterling and Felix, who are both attacking players, and you bring on Zakaria, who's a defensive player, and Gallagher, who should be an attacking player, but in Potter's system is more of a defensive player for whatever reason. Even though he showed, and I'll talk about him in a second, he showed why he's more of an attacking player today. But that's a defensive switch. That's all right, guys, I think it was like 65 minutes. It's like, all right, guys, we're going to hold on to this 1-0 lead for 25 minutes. Here's some defensive players to add numbers in the back. Do you see how we defend? We don't defend well. We're not going to be able to defend a 1-0 lead comfortably. It's going to require a bit of luck, and it did. Second sub, I'm pretty sure it wasn't Enzo. Who was the second one to come off? It was Kovacic came off, I'm pretty sure. And I think it was Chukwuemeka came on. So slightly attacking, because Chukwuemeka does play a bit further forward, so it did push him up alongside Gallagher, kind of. So slightly attacking, but Chukwuemeka is not exactly I can't wait to see him in the attack, because he's just kind of, he has had some moments, but he's still young and he hasn't really gotten a good run of games in. So it's hard to really know, is he going to be in form today or is he not? Because he's not played in 7 matches, something like that. So that wasn't exactly an attacking switch that I got super excited about. And then the last one is basically just, it's both an attacking switch and a defensive switch at the same time. Because you got Loftus-Cheek coming off and Chalobah coming on, which means you've taken off a wing back for a fullback. You now want him to basically be your right back, not a right wing back, because he's not going to be a right wing back. And then Madueke comes in for Enzo Fernandez, which then pushes Gallagher back. So you've basically just, all right, we're going to switch out this guy here for this guy, but push him back here. And again, Gallagher doesn't play well there, so you've kind of made a like-for-like switch, but you've put Gallagher in there, who's a terrible defensive midfielder, and now we're going to look even more vulnerable on defense. So all of these subs to me tell me he was happy to sit on the 1-0. And on top of that, Havertz, again, plays the whole match. And what did he do today? He wasted a one-on-one chance with the goalkeeper for probably the 20th time this season. I do actually want to know, if anybody has stats on that, I want to know how many one-on-one chances Havertz has wasted this season, because I can think of a few right off the top of my head where I'm like, yeah, he was one-on-one there, put it right at the keeper. And then that one, he put it off the post. And then that one, he took an extra touch and let the defender come back and make a challenge. So he's had several one-on-one chances that he has not scored. And yet Potter's like, that's my striker. That's the guy I trust up in the number 9, the guy who can't finish one-on-one situations. It was kind of funny. I did post something about that on Facebook in one of the Chelsea fan pages I'm in, and one guy comes back, because I said, how many one-on-one chances has Havertz missed this season? Guy comes back, are we talking just this season because he finished the Champions League final goal? How many chances has he wasted this season? I said that. Yes, in the Champions League final, he did finish that chance. You want to know where he was playing that game? Attacking mid and behind Werner. So kind of negates the point I'm trying to make here, that he's not a striker. But anyways, so yeah, it just, for me personally, one, this is not a win that really gets me excited, because again, it's a win that we've seen before. It's a narrow win against a bottom half of the table team. Wasn't very comfortable. It felt like we were just easy enough to just be like, okay, we'll just sit back on the 1-0. We don't need to really go push. And I feel like that doesn't really do much for morale. Getting a win, it will boost the morale a little bit. Getting a 3-0 win, especially against a team like Leeds, which are pretty bitter rivals with us, that is a morale-boosting victory. 1-0 win against a low bottom of the table side at home, where honestly they had 2 or 3 chances at the end of the game to equalize. That's a type of win. And that doesn't really get you pumped up for the next match. You're like, God, we got to go do this again. We got to try to get a goal and maybe just hold on again. The players aren't going to get excited for that. So, yeah, Potter, his tactics, his subs still just really kill us, even in situations where we're leading. And that's kind of why I did want to talk about this a little bit, because it sort of shows yes, obviously we've not been playing well, been giving up goals way too easily. But even when we look good, even when we look positive and we score first, he's still not the answer because he still tries to pull us back and be like, all right, guys, let's hold on to this win instead of, hey, let's go and actually try to play more and try to get more goals and try to get everybody excited to watch us play. Because I think I saw they kept cutting to people that were on their phones throughout after the goal in the second half. And I mean, I was doing the same thing. I'm like, yeah, this is boring now. So we got the goal and we're just even more possession based, and that's not fun. And it's definitely not what I want to see, knowing how bad our defense has been recently. So, individuals, I'll kind of just quickly go through. Kepa, nothing really to talk about for him today because he wasn't really tested as much as he should have been, as many chances as Leeds had today. A lot of the saves he made were very simple saves. He didn't really have to move much for him. So, yeah, he wasn't really tested, so I can't really say much about his performance today. In defense, we went with the back three today for whatever reason, decided to switch it up, even though we've not been doing that for the past 10 games, something like that. But yeah, sure, let's just suddenly change things up because I'm sure the players will just figure things out because they've figured things out so well this season. But yeah, so our back three, we got Betty Shield on the left side, Koulibaly in the center, Fofana on the right. Fofana did okay. In possession, he was definitely a little shaky at times, and especially whenever Leeds started to get a little bit more possession and started to get a little bit more energetic, he looked a lot more shaky. There were times that it felt like he was just a little too slow to figure out what he wanted to do, and there's pressure on him. It didn't happen a whole lot, but there definitely were moments where I started to get a little like, because it was too close. But obviously, did well in the goal, and on corners he looks a good threat. Like he gets up very well and early, so it's hard to really compete with him in the air for that. So I'm glad that we have somebody like that because we haven't really had a defender that's been able to have that sort of threat in the box for quite a while. Like even Rudiger, who was pretty solid in the box on corners, he didn't do it very consistently. So there were times when, yeah, he looked good, but then there were other times where it felt like he was too easily beaten. Fofana seems to a little bit more consistently be involved in the attack on corners. So Koulibaly in the center, defensively was fine for the most part, but yeah, on the ball as well. There's the one in particular where he just kept cutting back and forth as the guy is like putting pressure on him. And I'm just thinking, well, here we go. We dominated the first half. We had a lot of great chances. And right here at the end, Koulibaly's going to give it away with some stupid bad touch. Nearly happened, but thankfully Kepa was, close enough to deal with it. But yeah, I mean, just stupid stuff like that. And he does that. And he's always sort of had that about him since he's come in. So I I don't know. I don't know why he was put in the center because I don't really trust him to be the center of a back three. And then Betty Shield on the left side. Nothing really to report. Like he did okay. He looked pretty solid. I still don't really understand why he was the one left out of the Champions League stuff because he does his job fairly well. I don't really look at him and have any issues. I feel like he tracks runs okay. Defensively, he makes good challenges. On the ball, he looks pretty comfortable. I watch him and I'm thinking, yeah, I'd like to have him in my side. So the fact that he didn't make the Champions League squad is very bizarre to me, and also the fact that we haven't seen him for a few games until today. Like I don't know if he was carrying some sort of injury, but I I watch him play and I'm thinking, I mean, he's better than Koulibaly for sure. So I don't get why we don't see more of him. But yeah, I thought overall, I mean, looked fine. Very comfortable, nothing really out of place in my opinion. So on the wingbacks, Loftus-Cheek, and honestly, Loftus-Cheek, he's been kind of fading for me. I don't think he's really fitting in very well right now. And he had his moments before where it felt like maybe he was finally growing into the team. Maybe he finally had enough to do both sides of the ball in the midfield. But honestly, recently he's really dropped off. And right wing back is still not his role. So he didn't look comfortable today. He didn't really affect the game as much as he should be out there with as much pace and ball control as he has. So yeah, just kind of a very game for him where he didn't do anything wrong, but he didn't do anything to help us. In the left side, though, Chilwell, he's an example of he wasn't quite effective, because I've talked about this with other players before where their hard work is great. They do a lot of stuff off the ball and even on the ball well. It's just the final third where we needed them to improve. Chilwell had one of those games today. And he has had quite a few of those games in the past where he's probably one of our most influential players. He gets a lot of time and space out there. He's a good wingback for sure. But yeah, it's got to be a little bit better though. That final ball, the shot, the pass, whatever it is, the cross, it's got to be a little bit better because it's just not quite there. Because he really was probably, just performance wise, he probably was our best player on the pitch. But unfortunately, he still didn't. Aside, obviously he got the assist on the corner, but there were too many moments where it felt like we need to score off of this. He's made a great run. He's in great space out there. Find the pass, find the cross, and for the most part, didn't really find it. So just unfortunate. I appreciate all the hard work he did do because honestly, he has had a little bit of a rough time coming back from injury. I think he did look a lot more what I expect to see from him today. So that's good to see that he's getting back into that form again. But yeah, in the final third, he's got to improve because as much as we're relying on him to get time and space to kind of get us out of trouble in the back, he needs to be more effective because he has the ball so much. Into the midfield, though, Fernandez and Kovacic, decent pairing, but not fantastic because they're both pretty solid on the ball, but they are not the greatest when it comes to defending. Like they both can do the defending decently, but they're not defensive midfielders. I feel like Kovacic doesn't really track runners very well, and I feel like Fernandez, I don't know if it's his tracking or if it's his marking because he does get into the right spaces and he is there defensively, but I feel like marking wise in those tight spaces where guy makes a little run off of him, he's not really aware of those moments. Kovacic, it just feels like he's in a space and he's not really tracking anybody that's in that space, so he's sort of there, and if the ball comes near him, he'll try to get a foot on it. But if there's a guy that's kind of in his general vicinity, he's not really tracking him at all. He's just sort of watching the ball. So yeah, defensively, I feel like is where they struggled the most today, especially when Leeds started growing into the game. You could tell they were able to move the ball way too easily through our midfield because neither of them are the greatest at defensive work in there. So, but yeah, both of them on the ball look fine. Fernandez, I still appreciate the fact that he does look a lot more forward than Jorginho does. So in that sense, I'm glad we did get a better player than Jorginho in there. Kovacic still looks a little slower than I expect him to look, but I know he's still dealing with something. I don't know what exactly, but I know he's been in and out of the team with an injury recently. So I'm assuming that's why he came off in the second half. But yeah, I don't know. It looks to me like he's not quite at full fitness just by the way he's playing. He's not quite as quick. He's not quite as fast on the turn. So hopefully he can get back to full fitness soon because we do need him to be a bit more effective in there at keeping possession. In the front three, Felix looked our most dangerous player for sure in the front three. It's kind of ironic our most dangerous player today was our left wing back. But yeah, Felix also benefited from that, and some of his runs off the ball as well were very effective. He opened up a lot of space. He looked to get on the ball and make things happen. He is definitely the most progressive player we've brought in recently. But in the final third, still kind of improve a little bit. The shot that he took that went off the crossbar, it was fine. It was decently taken. A little bit of a difficult one to deal with from Sterling, but there's still other moments where I feel like he had the ball in a good space, and I feel like I wanted to see something come of it, and then nothing did. It was either a giveaway or it was just a bad pass. Sterling started the first half pretty well. The first 15, 20 minutes, he looked dangerous. He was taking players on. He was drawing fouls. Kind of what I expect from him. And then as the game went on, he just sort of started to fade and didn't really see much of him to the point where when I first saw the first number pop up and it was Gallagher for Felix, I'm thinking, oh, so we're leaving Sterling on, the lesser effective of these two. And then I saw he was coming off as well. I'm thinking, oh, so we're just taking off both attacking players for more defensive players. Got it. But yeah, I mean, he just, second half, didn't see anything from him really. I can't remember a time that he got on the ball. So, yeah, I don't know. It just very frustrating that he started the first half well. He looked effective. He looked dangerous, and then kind of just petered off as the game went on. Because we honestly, as a team, that is a problem. We tend to start the game very well and then slowly drift off as it goes on. And when you see it so clearly in one player's performance, it kind of makes it a little bit more frustrating because it's happening all around the field, but then you see he's not really doing anything. He gets on the ball and he gives it away too easily, or he just goes backwards with it. It's extra frustrating with that one player. So, but yeah, overall, I'm glad he's starting to come back into form a little bit, but we need to see it a little bit more consistently from him. And then Havertz, I already talked about him a little bit, but yeah, he's still not a striker. It is kind of interesting, and that the striker situation is one that I do wish we had a little bit more information about, because clearly the reports are they're not happy with Aubameyang for whatever reason, and I'm not saying that Aubameyang would solve all of our problems right now, but I've talked about it before. Havertz is not a striker. He doesn't play like a striker, and we need somebody in there who plays like a striker. We need somebody in there who's going to make striker runs, who's going to see the game as a striker would, who's going to try to get on the end of crosses because that's what strikers want to do. Aubameyang, he may not be effective, but he would at least be trying to do that, which in turn might open up spaces for other people. And again, I'll go back to it and I'll say it as many times as it needs to be said for people who don't realize this. One of the things that Werner brought to the team that we lack this season were his runs. The Champions League goal, I just saw a post about it recently. It's like, guys, we got to stick by Havertz. Remember this amazing goal? I watched it again. He had that time and space to get in behind Man City's defense because Werner was in the center and peeled off to the left, which drew the defender with him and opened up space in the center for Havertz to run into. And that's what he does well. He makes great runs into space that has been opened up by his teammates. He doesn't make the runs to open up the space for his teammates, and that's why there's hardly any space in there when he's playing, because he just stands there in the center. And if he does peel out today, of all days, when we don't have an attacking mid behind him to run into that space, most of the time he gets on the ball out there and he's ineffective with it. So even if he does open up that space for somebody else to run into, nothing's going to happen with it because he's going to give the ball away out there. So he's not a striker. And I don't know what's going on with Fofana, because from what I've heard, he's not injured, but he's not even been on the bench. So did he fall out with Potter? And if so, then why did we spend the money to bring him in? Because we brought him in with the promise of, oh, this guy's going to be good. He's going to be the best striker that we have. He's going to be the next, I heard comparisons like, oh guys, he's going to be the next Drogba. He's not even in the team now. So what happened? Is he injured? Is he sick? Or did he have a problem with Potter? And Potter's like, I'm going to put you in your place. As we're sitting here hardly able to score a goal. Because if that's the case, if it's Potter, if he had an issue with Potter and Potter benched him and then took him off the bench because he had an issue with Potter, if he was getting upset with Potter because Potter wasn't playing him, then in my opinion, that's even more reason to get rid of Potter. Because if he's not playing him, and then he gets mad at him for not playing him, and then he ousts him from the team because he got mad at him for not playing him, I'm on Fofana's side. Because I don't think I actually... Did I do a review of the game? I don't remember now. I think it was one of the games that I didn't get to do a review of, and it was a moment that just boggled my mind because Fofana had a great first half. He started the game, looked fantastic. Second half, sub to halftime. No explanation as to why. The only explanation I could think of is Wesley Fofana was subbed on at halftime for that game. I think Sterling was brought on for David Fofana. So, in my mind, my headcanon is that Potter is such an idiot and so stupid, he thought he would confuse himself if there were two Fofanas on the field. So since he wanted to sub on Wesley Fofana, he's like, well, I gotta sub this Fofana off, so that way I don't get messed up in my brain, because he's got an IQ of like 5. So don't know if that had anything to do with why Fofana is not in the team anymore, but I mean, if he is not even benching Fofana for Havertz, if he's just taking him out of the team for Havertz, because clearly Aubameyang is just there to fill out the bench. If that's what's going on, then yeah, Potter has. I mean, there's already 50 million reasons to sack Potter, but if this is something else that's going on, if he's actually turning to Havertz and saying he's my number one guy, and then Fofana gets pissed about that, and he's like, "Well, you're gonna be mad at me. I'm just gonna get rid of you." If that's what happened, then Potter, that's 50 million and one reason why he should be gone. So yeah, just something to think about. And if anybody has any information as to why David Fofana is not featured, I'd love to know, because I tried to look it up and all I got was one interview or one pre-match press conference where he was like, the other three are just unfortunate not to be in. So I don't know if that's his way of being like, those three, they're not injured, they just don't make it. But I mean, based on recent performances, Fofana showed me more in that one half than Havertz has showed me all season long. So, but yeah, I mean, did I actually talk about Havertz yet? In my since I started talking about player ratings, I don't know. But yeah, not a good game from him again. Just nothing from him. He had the one run through on goal where he put it too close for Melee to get a hand on it. I mean, it was a good save, but at some point, you have so many one-on-one chances that you don't score. At some point, it's a little less about luck and a little bit more about maybe you're just not good enough. So anyways, on to the subs, kind of real quick to talk to them, because they came on at a point where, again, it felt like the instruction from Potter was, let's just back off. Let's not keep going forward. Let's try to just drop it back and try to keep. So it was really hard to gauge them and judge them on that. But who was the first one? So it was Gallagher and Zakaria. Zakaria honestly didn't see a whole lot from him, and I know he's still returning from injury, so maybe he's just sort of getting back. But I do remember when he was fully fit and when he did start to feature a little bit before the injury, he looked really good. He looked very solid in the midfield and kept the ball well, defensively looked solid. So I hope he can get back to what we saw before the injury. Gallagher, as I said before, showed today why he needs to be further forward, and it was that one moment where he knocks the ball a little bit long, but he gets out there, gets to the corner flag, slides, keeps it in, plays a little 1-2 with Madueke. He works so hard in the final third when we're on the ball, and he looks good when we're on the ball. When we're not on the ball, he looks very all over the place. He can't get on the ball. He's just running around like a chicken with his head cut off. He looks better when we're on the ball than when we're not. And yet, Potter, for whatever reason, has decided I like him in the defensive mid position, which typically he's not going to get on the ball very often there. Most of his job there is going to be trying to win the ball back, which he doesn't do very well, as he showed several times today. But when we're on the ball, when he got on the ball and a little bit deeper, he looked good. He looked aggressive. He looked energetic. He tried to make things work. He knocked the ball around pretty well. Maybe still not effective on his finishing or his crosses, but he was suddenly giving us a little bit of life up front, where the previous 5-10 minutes before they got subbed on, we looked very dull and almost like we were just kind of everybody 10 men behind the ball, please. So yeah, again, another reason why Potter should be out. This is one it's one of the 50 million that I've already known about, so it's not 50 million and two. But yeah, I mean, it's just another example today as to how Potter just doesn't understand what players should go where. Seeing Gallagher up front, he looked good. And then what does Potter do? Well, let's move him back into the defense. Chukwuemeka came on, and like I said, haven't really seen much from him, so hard to really tell if he's going to be good on the day or not, because he's just been sort of ousted from the team since we brought in the new players. And it's a shame, because he had a decent little run of games there where he looked pretty effective. Still not, I wouldn't say a world beater or anything, but pretty energetic on the ball. He's pretty creative and clever and gets out of tight situations pretty well. He works hard to win the ball back for us up front. So I'm watching him today, and he's doing most of that decently well. Not at the same level that we saw before, but he's doing okay. And I'm thinking, why did we get rid of him again? Why did we not put him in the team for a while again, Potter? You want to explain this to me? Because I don't see it. I don't understand why. And then finally Chalobah and Madueke, and they were just, I don't know, they felt more like legs substitutions than actual changing the game substitutions. Because again, Chalobah, basically you've brought on a right back, so now he's going to sit back a little bit more than Loftus-Cheek was. And Madueke was just basically, we wanted a more attacking player in the front three, so let's push Gallagher back because he's not attacking at all, right? And then Madueke comes in, and that's kind of all I really saw from that. So, and neither of them really did anything poor. Chalobah does look a little off, and I don't know if that's morale because, even though he was playing really well, he was basically kicked out of the team by Tuchel for a while. And then Potter, he hasn't really been able to get a good run of games in. So I don't know if he's just not feeling up to it because even though he was playing so well for us, he didn't get the reward that he thought he deserved. Or if it's just, because he hasn't played for a while, he's still very rusty. So he's not quite 100% turned on all the time. But Madueke is just still kind of a busybody, but nothing really, I don't know, nothing really super effective from him. So, but anyways, that's pretty much it. I didn't think I was going to be talking about this much of the game, but because it was a little bit different today, because we did start, we were ahead at one point and then faded after the goal because for whatever reason Potter was like, let's just hold on to this 1-0 win. Like, it's just, it was something different that I wanted to talk about. So yeah, that's kind of all of my thoughts. I'm not really thinking much is going to change for Dortmund, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. But that's it for me. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on the game today? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Chelsea reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.